Hello, welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Mr. and Mrs. Is the Name, released in 1935. It's the 97th in the series, and it's directed by Friz Freleng. A brand new restoration. It popped up on streaming, and thankfully it's now available on disc on the recently released, at the time of this recording at least, the Looney Tunes Collector's Choice Volume 3 Blu-ray set, and I have a link below to that set. It is a copyrighted short, so I can't put the full thing here on YouTube, and even if I could, I'd rather you guys buy the set anyway so we can get more. But in case you haven't seen this one, it's your typical merry melodies where they're promoting a song. We see some mermaids singing in the beginning, and then we go deep underwater where a mer boy and a mer girl have a bit of an adventure of sorts in a sunken pirate ship, and of course we get the villain in the third act. Not much to it. If you've seen one early Merry Melodies, you pretty much know the plot already. So first up, we're going to have a chat about the cartoon itself. Then you're going to hear from my good friend Huey Nelson. He wanted to say a few things about this short. It's also Merry Melodies, which means you'll get another installment of Manny's Music Time by my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, so he'll go through all the musical portion of it. So first things first, you'll notice with the characters, is this Buddy and is that Cookie? With Cookie, that seems to be the second design because she went through a few different designs if you watch all the shorts in a row, which is only for the completest Looney Tunes fans, I gotta say, after revisiting those. But anyway, I am more inclined to think more like what Thad Komorowski wrote about it, in that they were probably just trying to be economical in their designs. I don't think they were thinking much of it. If you think about it, Buddy is such a generic, bland design that they probably just drew a mer boy and a mer girl, and they just happened to look like what Buddy and Cookie were at one stage. I think it's just coincidence. And remember, this is a different unit than the unit that were doing the black and white stuff, so I think it's just coincidence, to be honest, and I don't think they cared. It's just something that they didn't really think too much about, if we're being honest. But for the purposes of this short, I'll just call them Buddy and Cookie. They're not named here anyway, so I think I'll just go with that. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments. And yes, I'm aware that it's the same actor doing the voice of Buddy in this one. But again, I just think it's generic mer girl, generic mer boy. They just happen to look like Buddy and Cookie, but whatever. So let's take a look at this short, because some of you might be curious about this one, as it's kind of an anomaly on that Looney Tunes Collector's Choice set. I'm actually glad it's on there, because I think they should mix up a wide variety of different shorts, including these ones, which, let's face it, they're not particularly popular. I think these are the least favorites of a lot of people, but it's still interesting to see. So, just a friendly reminder that we're at a point where they're still using 2-strip Technicolor, because Walt Disney had the exclusive rights of 3-strip Technicolor at this point in time. But much like the previous short that Friz Freleng did in 2-strip Technicolor, this actually looks pretty good. Yes, it looks greenish, reddish, as 2-strip Technicolor does, but if you look at the opening scene, it looks pretty good. It does a pretty good job with it. In fact, this restoration is fantastic. And now that it's on disc, we get a high bitrate too, so we can see even more clarity on it. It's really good. So we initially see a scene with mermaids singing the title song with alternate lyrics. Again, my friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, is going to go through the music as well, but I'll just point out that it is from the 1934 Warner Brothers film Flirtation Walk, starring Dick Powell. But looking at these mermaids, you do have to wonder how this got past the Hays Code. And remember, the Hays Code was put into place to monitor decency in films, because anything that's classed as quote-unquote pre-code, they got away with some stuff, nothing overtly crazy, but they did a lot of what was seen as rather cheeky moments in films. So the Hays Code was developed to monitor decency. So you would look at this and go, okay, you don't see any nipples on these mermaids, but they're still topless. So I'm surprised they didn't look at that and just say, no, you got to cover up these mermaids' breasts, like with clams or whatever. But to give you an idea, in 1932, Disney released a short called King Neptune, and that's in 3-strip Technicolor, because again, they had exclusive rights, and the mermaids there were all topless, but again, no nipples, but they were all topless. But that made sense, because the Hays Code was not in effect at the time. Here it was, so I don't know. Maybe someone wasn't paying attention. Who knows? Who knows? But whatever, I'm not going to spend this whole video discussing topless mermaids. But we got some interesting animation of that solo dancing girl, where we'll see throughout the short that the animators will alternate having the fins as actual fins, but also double as feet. In this case, of course, as feet. Nice little bit of animation. I do wonder who did it though, but it's information that's probably lost to time. So we get a reused bit of animation, although here at least it makes sense, which is that dancing lobster, and even those oysters that clap in the beginning as well, and that comes from the short How Do I Know It's Sunday. Again, it makes sense to reuse that, although the song playing in the background, it just randomly changes, I guess, to suit that bit of animation. I don't know, but whatever. It is what it is. But after all that singing, we do get to the main part of the story, which makes the mermaid part completely pointless. Again, that part would have been just a mandate that they needed to promote a song at the time. So in this case, it feels like Frizz wanted to do something else and they just threw in the song at the beginning to get it out of the way. It's not the last time that will actually happen, but you can tell that sometimes trying to insert a song that's mandated is a bit tricky. In fact, if you look at the title itself, it's really got not much to do with the short itself. So we now see quote-unquote Buddy and quote-unquote Cookie. Again, I'll just call them Buddy and Cookie. That's probably the simplest way to do it. And they're chasing around, so we got some innocent little play here. But it becomes not so innocent when Buddy just smacks Cookie right on the butt. I guess this is just showing that these are actually kids. And if this is Buddy, the whole thing with the character is inconsistent anyway, because in some shorts he's like a boy, in some other shorts he's like an adult that seems to look like a boy, so here they're clearly kids. So it's like, tag, you're it, after smacking Cookie right in the butt, and Cookie rightfully smacks him back. And it's probably a gag that you wouldn't see today, but anyway, it is what it is. So then Buddy, quote-unquote, walks to the shipwreck, seemingly forgetting they can swim, but anyway, and sees a shipwreck that he didn't notice a second ago. And he discovers something really important. More fluff in this short. You know that they're going to discover something and kill some time, but anyway. It is what it is in these merry melodies. And we see the characters are still walking, they can clearly swim, and for some reason when Buddy's trying to get Cookie over to the ship, he's running. I love the inconsistencies there, but whatever. I know I'm overthinking it, I know, but whatever. So they discover that there's some treasure, so this is clearly some sort of a sunken pirate ship. I do wonder why mermaids would need treasure, but it's a bit of fun. Who cares? Who cares? We get a little bit of a lobster biting Cookie, and that pretty much leads to nothing. Kind of a pointless thing to do. Because later on, Frizz will become more and more economical when it comes to his shorts, but here he's just doing stuff which, if you look at it, what was the point of having that bit in there? But whatever. But I'm going to say the treasure looks really nice. Again, this showcases this beautiful restoration really nicely. And again, it also showcases that while there was a 2-strip technicolor limitation, Frizz got it looking as good as he possibly could. I dare say this restoration is the best that anyone's ever seen, I dare say, at the time. Even watching a pristine print that would have premiered at the time wouldn't have looked as good as this restoration. So Buddy now goes to a treasure chest filled with clothes and starts to imitate Charlie Chaplin, who was a silent comedian, made some of the funniest films of all time and some of the greatest films of all time in my book. And he was one of the longest resistors to sound in film as well. So Buddy now imitates the famous walk that Chaplin did in his silent comedies as his character, the Tramp. All things considered, I think it's a nice animation. Is it the greatest animation of all time? No, but for the time, I think it's pretty good. Whoever animated that definitely is a Chaplin fan, I'd say. Does it alright. Sure, it doesn't really add much, but whatever. So we now see a piano, and we all know what that means. More music. More music. I like the idea, though, that the piano isn't working, there are no strings, because that's how a piano works, right? It's basically you hit a key, and a drum hits the string. I know I've simplified it, but whatever. That's pretty much a piano there. So she gets what looks to be a part of a bed, and she just moves it over and gets it working. So, yeah. It's not a ha-ha funny joke. Again, whatever. It's clever, but yeah, whatever. And we see a lobster who was modelled after Harpo Marx, playing the the strings as though it's a harp. So in just about all Marx Brothers movies, he would have a scene where he would discover a harp and play it for a bit. Although in my favorite Marx Brothers film, Duck Soup, he barely does that, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, that's another point entirely. But it's quite clear that whoever made this didn't understand that Harpo Marx is supposed to be silent. So why is he singing the song title? I don't know. It is so dang weird. But anyway, it is what it is. You just shrug and go, okay. But I'm telling you guys, Harpo Marx is silent. That's the point of his character, okay? And the weirdness continues. We've got some nice animation showcasing Frizz's wonderful timing. So the skulls just pop out of the pirate hats and just start dancing. Why not? Sure. Okay. Fine. Whatever. We then hear some foreboding music. Then that means we are now in the third act of A Merry Melodies, which means we get a villain. So in this case, it's a random octopus. I like the design of this octopus. It's your typical 30s designed octopus. Nothing special, but I don't know. I like it. I like it. And in a complete shocking move, he kidnaps Cookie. I mean, were you thinking anything else was going to happen in the Merry Melodies short? But anyway. And then now Buddy remembers that he can swim and he goes to the rescue. The bad guy then turns into a motorboat / submarine thing, which, again, nice timing animation there. Buddy just finds a random fan that just happens to be lying around at that particular spot he's at, and that somehow it's working. But he attaches it and continues on. Yeah, convenient, but funny for that reason, I'd say. So we're now in a cave, which, again, look, this cartoon is very mediocre, okay? It really is. But, again, the backgrounds, they look absolutely stunning in this restoration. But you know there's something wrong with your cartoon if you're watching the backgrounds and admiring that rather than what's actually going on. But, well, it is what it is. And now we have the battle of the century with Buddy using a club to attack the octopus, but in a great bit of timing, the octopus smacks the living crap out of Buddy. So for those who hate Buddy, even though this is not really Buddy in my opinion, I'm sure you will enjoy that bit. Now we hear a certain sound effect. You'll hear it, and if you've watched a lot of later Bob Clampett shorts, and even if you Tex Avery's, you've heard that sound many times. It's basically a trombone, but I think this is where that sound effect originated. So there you are. So this has got another interesting highlight. And the octopus didn't really put too much of a fight in the end. He goes through a tunnel, gets his tentacles all tied up, and we get the only thing close to a Looney Tunes style gag here, with the log defying water physics and hitting the octopus constantly. But he gets a kiss, he's knocked out, and he now has a concussion. The end. Right, so my good friend Huey Nelson's just going to mention a few things about this short, and then my good friend Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, will be discussing the music in this short. So first up, take it away, Huey.
What's up, Doc? And what's up, Anthony? I'm glad to be joining again to be discussing Mr. and Mrs. is the name. This is one of the dozens of early 30s Merry Melodies that technically I still have a soft spot for, despite the fact they don't really get much exposure. But I remember watching this specifically for that few seconds where this song goes upbeat and the Mer Girl is just singing, Mr. and Mrs. is the name. And it goes dun 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 dun, and we just see the pirate skeletons dance. And I remember how catchy that song was, which is why I love some of these early Merry Melodies, because they have a lot of catchy songs from the Warner Library. Granted, there's not a lot of gags, and it's not the first Freeling we know of the 40s and 50s, but his musical talents are actually shown here. Well, his love of music for that matter. But there are a few gags, like one where the Mer Girl is singing, Mr. and Mrs. is the name, and the fish flies out of her mouth. And I remember seeing that. I missed that on the Laserdisc, but then when I seen it restored, I was like, wait, that fish came out of her mouth? And I remember laughing at it. Also, when the mermaid are playing tag, and I think the boy tags the girl way too hard and slaps her behind or her fin, and she gets rudely offended and ends up slapping him. That was pretty funny. However, the plot is still the same. It's one of those merry melodies where it's a damsel in distress kind of thing. It's very cliche, but it's still a very catchy song. I would recommend people do actually listen to the real thing.
And now take it away, Manny.
Hi everyone, this is Manny Cruz, the Toonie Tenor, coming at you with the latest edition of It's Time for Manny's Music Time, with music trivia for you today. Bum! For the 1935 Merry Melody, Mr. and Mrs. is the name, directed by Isidore Frizz Freeling. So I haven't seen this one in a bit of a while. It was nice to do a new exploration of this particular cartoon, especially the gorgeous restoration that recently made its debut, or whatever you want to say. And it looks really nice, and it's an early example of Warner Brothers cartoon in color, albeit two-strip Technicolor with the red and green hues. But I'm not here to wow you with my very limited knowledge of the Technicolor process. Let's get into the cues, shall we? So there's a few in this cartoon. So obviously the cartoon starts off with I Think You're Ducky, the Merry Melodies theme of that time, and it goes right into the title track. Mr. and Mrs. is the name, with words by Mort Dixon and the music by Ali Rubel.
On an island hidden far away, mermaids and fishes are at play. The breeze blows gently, and how their hips do sway. Mermaids and fishes are at play.
The song was originally sung by Dick Powell in the 1934 first national feature Flirtation Walk, and the mermaid's voices in the beginning of the cartoon, where they sing the melody of the song with alternate lyrics, is done by the debutantes. Thank you to Keith Scott for giving me that information in his excellent book about cartoon voices. If you want to learn more about Mort Dixon, I highly recommend that you go back and check the commentary that I did for A Great Big Bunch of You, and I just recently did some information about Ali Rubel, so please check out the commentary for Pop Goes Your Heart. That'll give you a nice chunk of information to learn about Ali Rubel, because you will see his name pop up in other Warner Brothers shorts down the line. Now, the next cue, I literally spent hours trying to find the answer to this one, and it was like making me pull my hair. Okay, maybe not a good example since I shaved my head, but I was going crazy trying to find information for this one. So the second cue is called Dance or Danse Fantastique, so it's a French title, by Reynard. And that's what I saw on a cue sheet. And I went on Google, and I went on all these different search engines, and even went on a songwriters database. I guess it's like the BMI song database, not body mass index, BMI. I'm trying to see, let me see, BMI. And of course, it's going to bring me body mass index, and I'm not looking into that. I mean, I know I need to lose weight, but that's besides the point. Broadcast Music Incorporated. There you go. Gold star for me. Hooray. Yeah, I should have known that. But it compiles information for ASCAP and other organizations. You know, when you use music for licensing purposes, for movies, for TV shows, things of that nature. And I often go on that database if I am looking at a cue sheet with the research of Daniel Goldmark in particular. But I look at the cue sheet, and if I see like a last name, and if I see the name of the song, I type in name of the song and the name of the composer, and then from there usually I'll get like their full name. But this one I just kept hitting brick wall after brick wall. Could not find anything about Renard. I couldn't find anything about Danse Fantastique. I found another song. I think it was a Danse Fantastique from Dmitri Shostakovich, a Russian composer. I'm like, no, I doubt they were using Shostakovich's music in these cartoons at the time period. So finally I said, you know what? Let me see where this cue was used before, or in another short. So according to the cue sheet, it was also used in the cartoon At Your Service, Madame, the 1936 Merry Melody that Frizz would work on. And that was the other thing too. When I was watching the cartoon, I'm like, is this the actual cue? Because based off where I heard it in the short, it occurs during the scene where you see all the mer people playing, and then you're introduced to quote-unquote Buddy and quote-unquote Cookie. And I'm like, this has to be Danse Fantastique, you know. This is the only logical place in the cartoon there would be. So I went and skimmed through At Your Service, Madame, and I heard the music playing. It's in a scene where I think Piggy wakes up and his mom's like, all right, get ready, you know, so on and so forth. And I'm like, yep, that's the same exact melody that's in At Your Service, Madame. And then on the cue sheet for that particular cartoon, it said J. Renard. I was like, yes, I have a first name. So I did a little Googling and noogling and whatever. That's a new word, noogling. And I found Jules Renard. And then I found out that's a pseudonym for J.S. Zemeckis. And I'm like, you mean to tell me this entire time it was just another Zemeckis cue, but he just went with a pseudonym, and I wanted to bang my head against the wall. So all that research just for this expletive cue. So yes, Dans Fantastique, Jules Renard, a.k.a. we're talking about Hooray Hooray, and the world keeps on turning. Big wheels keep on turning, Proud Mary keep on burning. Now I'm talking about Creedence Clearwater Revival and Tina Turner. But anyway, I digress. So yes, this is the music you hear when they're playing and dancing, and then Cookie and Buddy are doing their thing. There you go. Beautiful. Let's move on. Sorry about that. I'm going to go more into detail about J.S. Zemeckis in another commentary. There is another cue of his in this cartoon. I'll get to that in a moment. I'm just going in order. Next one you have is called The Policeman's Holiday by Montague Ewing. And in the cue sheet, it's called The Cop. But again, I went on the BMI database. It said The Cop, and then did a little digging around, and I found the song on YouTube. It was a recording of a gentleman playing the piano. And yeah, it was like, it's the same song, The Policeman's Holiday or The Cop. I'm going to go with The Policeman's Holiday because that's the more popular title. That's the music you hear when Buddy and Cookie start exploring the treasure chest inside the sunken ship. So let me talk a little bit about Montague Ewing himself. So this information comes from a blog called Walker Homeschool Blog, and I want to thank them for their information, and I quote, Montague George Ewing, born May 21st, oh, happy belated birthday, May 21st, 1890, March 7th, 1957, when he passed away, sometimes known as Sherman Myers, was a British composer and arranger of light music, much which was used in films and broadcasting, who wrote many pieces with descriptive titles and was particularly famous for his 1911 one-step, The Policeman's Holiday. Ewing was born, as I said, May 21st, 1890, at Eastham in London, England, and was a self-taught musician. He worked in an office and wrote his compositional attempts on blotting paper until he was almost thrown out. As a composer and as a lyricist, he published both under his birth name as well as under various pseudonyms such as Rex Avon, Herbert Carrington, Brian Hope, Paul Hoffman, and especially Sherman Myers. His specialty was writing and editing easy light music, cheerful novelty-style piano pieces, and song hits. He was first known for his, there's that song again, 1911 published Policeman's Holiday, which was immediately a success and is still loved by brass bands today. Other pieces with the theme police followed, like the Police Patrol and the Burglar's Dreams. There were also marches, nautical novelties, I like that, it sounds like a SpongeBob thing, nautical novelties, intermezzi, piano pieces, and breeze. Many of Ewing's compositions have descriptive titles such as Fairy on the Clock, Soldier on the Shelf, or Butterflies in the Rain. Often additions such as a humorous interlude or a humorous one or two step indicate the cheerful character of this piece. Ewing served in World War I from 1915 to 1919 in the London Scottish Regiment. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, so I quote again. A number of his songs were popular in their day. During World War II, Ewing served from 1940 to 1944 in the Home Guard. His works include a many film tunes published by Sam Fox, such as The Motley Fool, Stealthy Whispers, and The Village Idiot, among many others. I know plenty of people in this world that could qualify for that term, The Village Idiot. I'm really trying to keep my mouth shut right now. Ewing died on March 4th, 1957, at the age of 67 in Friern, that's a weird word, Friern, Barnet in London, England. It's funny that I mentioned SpongeBob. I forgot this part. His Fly-By-Night, so that's one of his songs, was later used in cartoon series such as Ren and Stimpy and SpongeBob SquarePants. Well, won't you look at that? I completely forgot about that. So there you go. There's a little information about Montague Ewing, unquote. Fly-By-Night, because I do have production music in my phone of Ren and Stimpy, so I got to check it out after this commentary. And I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. I was listening to Montague Ewing the entire time, and Ewing is Patrick Ewing, a Hall of Fame basketball player, and Ewing, New Jersey, which is about an hour southwest of where I live. So there you go. Look at that. A little geography for you. All right, let's move on ahead, shall we? So we have another J.S. Zemeckis cue. As I mentioned before, Jules Renard is a pseudonym of J.S. Zemeckis. I'll go more into detail with him in another commentary. This cue is the song Fate, and this is the music when the evil, scary octopus comes along and is I'm probably singing the melody wrong. And I love this particular cue because this is the same cue that was used in one of my top 10 favorite Warner Brothers shorts, 1937's Frank Tashlon's classic, The Case of the Stuttering Pig. This is the music that you hear when Lawyer Goodwill goes inside his underground laboratory and starts mixing the chemicals to transform into his monster form. It's the same cue. So when I heard it, I was like, yep, I knew instantly what it was. And the last cue that you hear in this cartoon is called Perilous Pursuit by Louis De Francesco. The cue sheet said De Francisco, like San Francisco. But I was like, no. De would indicate to me is probably Italian. So I assumed De Francesco. And then I looked it up and it was De Francesco. Louis De Francesco. I couldn't find too much information about him. And also this cue was also used one other time in the cartoon When I Yoo-Hoo, another Freeling short from 1936. This information for De Francesco comes from IMDb. I really tried looking for something more substantial, so if this is incorrect, take it with a grain of salt. So this comes from IMDb, and I quote, so Louis De Francesco was born December 26, 1888 in Alice, Sardinia, Italy, and he died on my mom's birthday, October 5th, 1974 in Northridge, California, USA. I was in Northridge 11 years ago. I did an opera program, and I stayed on the campus of Cal State Northridge when I was there. Beautiful area. And yeah, it looks like he passed away on my mother's 11th birthday, so go figure. So a mini bio about De Francesco. So, he was a composer and songwriter and conductor educated at the Conservatory of Naples with a maestro diploma. Look at that. He came to the United States in 1910 and toured the country as a conductor of light operas, later joining a film studio as its music director and then doing film composing and arranging. He joined ASCAP in 1930. So, ASCAP, if you don't know, is the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers. So, yeah, he joined in 1930, and his other popular song compositions and film themes include Cavalcade, The White Parade, Ah Love But a Day, Should She Forget Me Not, Heart My Heart, and The Sun Shines Brighter, unquote. So that was a bio contributed by HUP234 exclamation point. So hup 234 must be a military guy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I mean, I told Anthony I wouldn't ramble too much, but yeah, check out those earlier Manny's Music Times for Ali Rubel. That is Pop Goes Your Heart, and for Mort Dixon, A Great Big Bunch of You. Those are the two gentlemen who worked on the title track. So those are my thoughts for Mr. and Mrs. Is the Name. It was good to revisit this one. It was a load of fun. Please follow me on social media at the Toony Tenor, TheToonyTenor, for more information about my life as a musician and as a multifaceted geek. And hopefully I will not spend multiple hours trying to find information on an obscure film cue or music that was written for silent films by J.S. Zemeckis, who was being a crazy little boy and using pseudonyms and driving some guy 100 years in the future crazy in the process. So yeah, now I have a vendetta. No, I like J.S. Zemeckis stuff, and so did Carl Stalling. And for this cartoon, the music director, it was Bernard Brown. Okay. Oh, Bernard, you sly dog, you. All right, I've had enough. All right, talk to you later, folks. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
That's all, folks.
Thank you, Manny. So this short, it's not great. It's more interesting in that it's got characters that look like Buddy and Cookie, and it looks nice in this restoration, and I'm glad it's available on disc and mixed up with the other Looney Tunes, which are way better than this short. But it's just your typical merry melodies. For what it is, it's fine, but I just didn't think it was that entertaining, so I'm trying to be fair with it. Look, I give it a 5 out of 10. At least it looks nice. It's got some nice backgrounds. A few gags here and there are okay, I guess, but I guess I'm being generous, but I don't want to be overly harsh because we got the benefit of hindsight. But in any case, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.